When you speak about porphyria, you divide them into two major types, one being hepatic, the other being erythropoietic, where the clinical manifestation can be seen as either cutaneous manifestations or visceral manifestation combined or not with that of neural manifestation. For example, when will you have cutaneous manifestation? If a compound accumulates in the skin and UV light from the sun attacks the skin and the compound that is present inside under the effect of UV light goes for photoisomerism, then they will actually have inflammatory pathway initiated. That inflammation will bring all the local inflammatory cells including macrophages and fill the area with a lot of interleukin, because of which the skin is rebelled against by your own inflammatory cell. That skin will form blisters. So this can be in simple terms referred to as photosensitivity, and that photosensitivity has led to eruptions. Now this is the power of this particular compound which have porphyrin rings. Remember, whenever you have had the ring-like structures accumulating, that ring-like structure is the reason why cutaneous manifestations can happen. So as long as the ring-like structure has never formed in this particular pathway, till that level cutaneous manifestations cannot happen. And when we speak about hepatic and erythropoietic, it speaks about where the particular cell is getting originated or the compound is originating, and that compound is capable of attacking in that particular place is what defines these two types of porphyria. Now, if at all you think about any step of porphyrin, be it the ring structure or not, it is capable of accumulating in the organs, and also it is capable of attacking the nerves. When the neuronal system is attacked, generally psychiatric behavior can be noticed. And in terms of viscera, even abdomen can be attacked, so abdominal pain can be noticed. But when we say cutaneous, it is capable of causing photosensitivity eruptions. Remember, the UV light is capable of causing photoisomerism, activating your inflammatory pathway. And all of this happens because the compounds will not be able to remain silent and stable. They get activated by the exposure to sunlight. Now, why do you have to know all these things? Have you heard of the concept of vampires? These vampires, do they exist? These vampires, do they exist? 200, 300 years back when vampire stories were happening, they used to actually keep a place called as Transylvania as the home place for all these vampires. And these vampires have some important features. They are pale, they are lean, they have sharp canines, and when you look at their face, they always look like they have drunk blood. And most importantly, they fear sunlight and they get dissipated and destroyed when they're exposed to sunlight, so they mostly operate in the dark. What if I tell you there were certain human beings who were mistaken as vampires and they were treated as very bad people and they were kept out of the community so that they will not be a threat to the people living inside the community? These vampires are the equivalents of congenital erythropoietic porphyria with that of erythrodontia. Congenital erythropoietic porphyria with erythrodontia can explain all these. When there is a congenital erythropoietic porphyria, erythropoiesis is affected, so the person will be pale because he is anemic, and he will not have a good appetite. His appetite will be lesser, so he will be lean. But why sharp canines? He will be craving meat. but those people do not eat human beings in general. But in case of vampire story, it will be portrayed as if they come and bite the jugular. And that concept, if you want to actually bite the jugular, you have to make an impact here. That is why the canines are supposed to be sharper. And these canines are sharper because when they are craving meat, they will also be craving blood. But these people don't crave blood, they crave iron because they do not actually have proper hemoglobin being formed. They may have iron, but they are not having hemoglobin. So they do not know what they are craving for. So any kind of compound which is a source of iron will be a very tasty compound for them. Now let me ask you a question. Why iron is rich in green leafy vegetables? Think about it. Green leafy vegetables are green because of the photosensitive pigments called as chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is one area where your electron transport chain is acting in the reverse. You will be having electron transport chain in case of mitochondria where a fuel is brought inside, it is burned and converted into energy. But in case of chlorophyll, the sunlight is actually falling as light energy and you will be taking the carbon dioxide and water and trap the energy into starch molecule. So it is the reverse of E is equal to mc square, which is the Einstein's mass energy equation. I'm not saying it is the exact reverse, the concept is reversal. In case of Einstein's mass energy equation, you convert a solid or liquid or a gaseous mass into energy. In case of photosynthesis, you're converting energy and molecules into compounds. So in case of chlorophyll, you still have cytochrome pigments, and cytochrome pigments in case of leaves will be made up of magnesium and iron, and that is the proof that green leafy vegetables are rich in iron. At the same time, why do they crave meat? Meat is made up of myoglobin, and that myoglobin also has heme, and the heme core is again iron, so craving for meat is a regular thing. Now, what is erythrodontia? You will be having red pigmentation or red glow because of the porphyrins accumulating in the gums. When exposed to sunlight, it feels as if that particular human being has had a blood meal. It is apparently looking like a blood meal, and because he has sharp canine teeth because of the craving, all these features will make sure the person may be treated as a vampire, and that particular person's cutaneous blisters will become aggravated when exposed to sunlight. So the vampires getting destroyed in the presence of sunlight is the equivalent of these Porphyria people running away from sunlight because they can't expect the sunlight to be okay for them. So this is just a perspective for you to go through this particular picture and not have much of difficulty in learning through these kind of concepts. Now I have told you the two types of porphyrias are hepatic and erythropoietic. Now let's discuss which one is which. Okay. Under erythropoietic porphyrias and under hepatic porphyrias. Look at this part. Your X-linked sideroblastic anemia is erythropoietic. Your congenital erythropoietic porphyria, as the name suggests, is erythropoietic. Then protoporphyria, the last step porphyria, is also erythropoietic. Now the remaining can either be mixed or they can be hepatic. Now keep watching. If I look for hepatic porphyrias, ALA dehydratase deficiency anemia or porphyria is hepatic. Acute intermittent porphyria is hepatic. Next, Porphyria cutanea tarda is mostly hepatic, but let me mark this particular disease and say that can also be mixed type of porphyria where both can exist but predominantly hepatic. Then you have hereditary coproporphyria, which is also hepatic. Variegate porphyria, which is hepatic. So look at this. we have X-linked sideroblastic anemia, that is erythropoietic, congenital erythropoietic porphyria, that is erythropoietic, sorry, we'll repeat this. So look at this, your X-linked sideroblastic anemia is erythropoietic, congenital erythropoietic porphyria is erythropoietic, protoporphyria is erythropoietic. Now we'll use a different color to handle them. Erythropoietic, erythropoietic, erythropoietic. Now you look at this color, hepatic, 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 hepatic. This one, Porphyria cutanea is mixed. So the ideal intelligent thing is to remember these three diseases along with this, so the rest of them will be called as hepatic. And what is the problem with hepatic and erythropoietic? The type of clinical manifestation you see will be different. Now look at this. We will be having a discussion on which one causes what kind of problems. In case of acute intermittent porphyria, you have not still formed a porphyrin ring. So you will be having abdominal pain and neuropsychiatric symptoms. Sometimes he may have psychokiller behavior also when he is under immense pain. Next, when it comes to congenital erythropoietic porphyria, again I told you about the vampires, so they will be photosensitive. Next, in case of this hereditary coproporphyria, you will be able to notice that you can expect photosensitivity because the coproporphyrins going for isomerization, but they are also capable of going to the GIT and irritate the enteric nervous system to cause abdominal pain, and they can have neuropsychiatric manifestations. So here I'll write it, PS is photosensitivity and AP is abdominal pain. Then NP is neuropsychiatric manifestations. Here we'll have a different color to code for them, orange. So what you see in case of congenital erythropoietic porphyria, photosensitivity. What do you see in case of AIP? What you don't see is photosensitivity, but what you see is abdominal pain and neuropsychiatric symptoms. So look at this particular portion. Here you have hereditary coproporphyria, which has all the three manifestations: photosensitivity, abdominal pain, neuropsychiatric manifestations. Now what about Porphyria cutanea tarda? The most important keyword is it is cutanea tarda. It is hepatic, but it is mostly known for causing photosensitivity. And because of continuous blisters formation, ulcers formation and re-ulcers formation, their skin would be eczematous. At the same time, it will become more and more rougher, and you will be having alternative normal patches, rough patches, normal patches, rough patches. The patient's skin will look horrible, because of which he can also be misunderstood to be a vampire in some kind of situations. Now, what about the variegate porphyria? The variegate porphyria would be having again photosensitivity, abdominal pain, neuropsychiatric manifestations. What about protoporphyria? These protoporphyria are the last step of formation of anything, so they won't actually go for hepatic and abdominal thing. These protoporphyrin starts accumulating in the skin itself, so photosensitivity is the only thing that you can see here. Now remember, for photosensitivity to happen, you have to wait at least till this level and below, because above this level you will not be able to have photosensitivity, because you need at least a ring that has been formed in an improper way to go and accumulate in the skin to go for photoisomerism. If a ring has not still formed, the possibility of it going to the skin and getting under the skin to get exposed to UV light is not possible. So photosensitivity begins with this level, and this is present here, 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 here and here. So in all these areas photosensitivity is present. Above this, photosensitivity is absent. Now I hope this will be able to clear most of your doubts and you will be able to answer your questions better. Now let me put forward 2 to 3 points about some important porphyria which can be helpful for your exams. Now let's look at this. The most common porphyria has always been a debate, but for the time being, let's look at Porphyria cutanea tarda as the most common. Next, the most common acute porphyria can be nobody other than the one who has the name called as acute, which is acute intermittent porphyria. Remember, in this particular porphyria, PBG can accumulate, and that PBG is capable of irritating your GI nervous system to cause intense spasmodic abdominal pain, because of which you will be able to have AAP, a leading cause of acute medical abdomen. Now, what else can actually cause acute medical abdomen? Remember, diabetic ketoacidosis and the ketone bodies present in the circulation when they reach the GIT, the enteric nervous system irritation can again cause acute medical abdomen. All other acute abdomens are generally surgical abdomens. For example, acute cholecystitis, pancreatitis, peritonitis, appendicitis, etc., even cholecystitis, but these are not surgical conditions. These are treated by medical conditions. Why do you say that? Because acute intermittent porphyria can be treated by giving high doses of glucose, because glucose is capable of suppressing ALA synthase enzyme. And if you put the patient on huge amounts of hematin, hematin is also capable of suppressing ALA synthase. If ALA synthase is inhibited, then formation of the porphobilinogen will not happen. So remember, these are treated by medical conditions, that is increased amounts of glucose and hematin can be given as treatment for acute intermittent porphyria. Okay, next you have the most common porphyria that can be noticed in children will be congenital erythropoietic porphyria. Now, let's look at acute hepatic porphyrias. Some acute hepatic porphyrias are, that is, the problem happens to be in the hepatic synthesis also, will be acute intermittent porphyria, hereditary coproporphyria, and variegate protoporphyria. All three are autosomal dominant diseases. This is for your information. Next, we have autosomal recessive acute hepatic porphyria. This is the second kind of porphyria called as ALA dehydratase deficient anemia / porphyria. Next, you look at the erythropoietic porphyrias, which can be congenital erythropoietic porphyria, and then you can think of X-linked protoporphyria. Next concept, you have Porphyria cutanea tarda, which is sporadic. It doesn't affect the community. It happens in sporadic sites. Sporadic, it occurs frequently it happens frequently in those communities where hepatitis C, HIV are more prevalent. This is one relation to that of microbiology. You can actually have a look at it, Porphyria cutanea tarda. Okay, now all porphyrias are autosomally inherited, except you know which one, except the X-linked sideroblastic anemia. And porphyrins generally exhibit a characteristic absorption spectrum. That happens in both visible and UV regions. This is an important point. Now, the extension of this information is that when you look at porphyrin and subject the porphyrin to 5% HCl, they will be able to produce a sharp absorption band at 400 nanometers. This absorption band happening at 400 nanometers is called as Soret band, and that brings us to the conclusion of the chapter of porphyrias. All the very best.